From being a prodigy in high school to going without a team in 2023, is Romeo Langford still good enough for the Spurs? Let's find out. Remember when he was a big deal in New Albany with a court and playground named after him? Well, those days are far gone, as Langford's run with the NBA hasn't exactly been what everyone expected it to be. He came into the league as the 14th overall pick for the Boston Celtics. But before Romeo could even find his footing, injuries started to plague his career. Every time it looked like he was finding his groove, he'd get sidelined. I mean, the guy couldn't catch a break, and that definitely stunted his development. When Langford did get some playing time though, he showed glimpses of everything he was capable of. He has some serious defensive skills, with the length and athleticism to give opponents a hard time. Plus, he's got a knack for attacking the rim and finishing strong. But let's be real, his shooting game needs work, and in today's NBA, you gotta have a reliable jumper. So after he failed to prove himself to the Celtics, Romeo was traded to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Derek White. Right from the get-go, no one knew if the Spurs just picked him as a salary filler or to actually give him a second shot. I mean, the dude was a lottery pick. But as I talked about earlier, he had a tough time staying on the court with the Celtics and didn't quite live up to the hype he had in high school. But hey, he was still young and had some talent, so maybe the Spurs thought he could find his groove if he could show some damn consistency. Sadly though, the same old issues that plagued him in Boston followed him to San Antonio. Still, his time with the Spurs was better than what he did with the Celtics. Langford showed some skills as a finisher, and even had some promising moments on the defensive end, despite being a bit undersized for a wing player. But his three-point shooting was a disaster. He couldn't find the bottom of the net, shooting a measly 26.2% from beyond the arc. And when you look at his career stats, it's not much better at 28.8%. And here's the thing, if you can't knock down threes when you're 6'4", it's difficult to find much else to build on. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Langford did have some shining moments, especially when he was healthy. When he wasn't battling injuries, he showed his worth as a tenacious point-of-attack defender. The Spurs even had him coming off the bench to guard point guards, and he held his own. Langford could handle wings and even switch onto power forwards. He was a beast on the defensive end, no doubt about it. And you know what? Langford had some other tricks up his sleeve too. Despite his shooting struggles, he made up for it by being an aggressive offensive rebounder and a willing cutter. That helped mitigate some of the gravity he lacked on offense. And every now and then, he even showed some skills in creating his own shot. But more often than not, the cons overshadowed the pros. In fact, his limitations became super obvious, which is never a good look when you're on a rebuilding team with other equally flawed players. And to the surprise of no one, the Spurs decided to take Romeo off their roster. After being the 14th pick by the Celtics in 2019, Langford's now a free agent with no team, no contract, and no clear future. His rookie contract worth over $16.5 million ran out at the end of the 2023 season, and San Antonio faced an interesting choice when deciding what to do with him in the offseason. In the past, it would have been a no-brainer to re-sign him on the cheap, teach him how to shoot, and mold him into a solid 3-and-D wing. But here's the thing, the Spurs already have a bunch of developmental projects going on. Plus, he's not exactly projected to be a game changer, and with potentially up to 3 more rookies on the way, the coaching staff had to ask themselves if Langford was worth the time and effort, and in the end, they decided not to re-sign him. But was that the right decision, and is he any good for other NBA teams? Well, that's a little tough to answer. One thing's for sure, though, he's young and affordable. If the market isn't hot on Langford and he's available for the minimum, a return to his current team could happen. At just 23 years of age, he fits right into San Antonio's rebuilding plans. But in his best season with the Spurs, he was only averaging 6.9 points per game in 43 appearances. But despite the ups and downs, the Athletics still ranked him as the 16th best small forward entering free agency this summer. That's gotta count for something, right? And let's not forget, Langford's defense fits right in with the Spurs' style. Plus, he's got some solid finishing skills around the rim. The only catch is, the dude needs to stay healthy to make an impact. Not to mention, Langford's three-point shooting was straight up abysmal last season, hitting just 26%. But to be fair, injuries could have messed with his shot. because he shot a more respectable 35% from deep during his last year in Boston. All in all, a short-term deal to fill out the depth chart would be a smart move for the Spurs. It gives Langford a chance to prove himself in the NBA. It's a low-risk, potentially high-reward situation. And we might get to see him with another team in the future because some team might be able to get him for cheap. Langford probably won't be asking for a fat paycheck. He could be a solid replacement for Keita Bates-Diop, coming off the bench as a cheap option with limited offense, but versatility on defense. But those health issues could be a red flag for any front office looking to fill roster spots. And let's be real, there's a bunch of other wing players out there who can do a little bit of everything except shoot. Langford didn't do much to stand out from the pack during the 2022 and 2023 season, at least on the court. The Spurs had a rough go last season with him on the team, ending up with a record of 22-60. That's not exactly something to brag about. And Langford managed to earn 21 starts during the season. Unfortunately, he only played in 43 out of the 82 games, so he will have to work for it to stay off the bench. I'm not just talking about his three-point shooting, but even his free throws were a struggle. It's pretty clear that his shot needs a whole lot of improvement, and there's a chance it may never become a reliable weapon for him. Now, he did have a few moments where he showed some potential as a secondary ball handler and shot creator, but let's be honest, those flashes were few and far between. Plus, his lack of elite athleticism is a bit worrying when it comes to taking on that kind of role. Not to mention, it looked like he was starting to get really comfortable on the bench. Fans noticed how he was happy to not be called out and would actively try to not get noticed. Not a good look. And if the Spurs decide not to take him back, he'll have to struggle hard to prove himself. Right now, Langford is a free agent, meaning he can sign with any team that wants him. But he's in a tough spot with no team backing him up. His agents at CAA have their work cut out for them. They gotta convince some NBA general manager to give Langford a shot and invite him to training camp. It's gonna be a whole new experience for Langford. For the first time since grade school, he's gonna have to fight for a spot on a team during training camp. If he makes it, he'll earn a minimum of $1.84 million. And this'll also be his chance to prove himself. Right now, people are thinking he went into the NBA a little too early. It was probably a mistake to do that after just 1 year at IU without fixing his jump shot. But hey, going to the NBA early means big bucks, and Langford has already made a decent amount. Now the training camps will be his next shot. It's going to be exciting to see what unfolds in the next few months until NBA training camps kick off. Will he be able to find a team where he's going to play in the NBA next season? Will the Spurs take him back? We'll just have to wait and see. So there you have it. From going without a team in 2023 to being a prodigy in high school. That is why Romeo Langford is not good enough to stay with the Spurs.